Hello, today is Monday, February 24th. Welcome to episode 418 of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you quickly up to speed 3 times a week on the national security and foreign policy debates shaking up America. I'm NSI Senior Fellow Morgan Vina, and I'm joined today by NSI Deputy Director Martha Miller, Advisory Board Member Lester Munson, and NSI Fellow Jessica Jones. So over the weekend, Germany had its federal election, and this marked a significant shift in the national political landscape. The Conservative Christian Democratic Union, also known as CDU, led by Friedrich Merz, emerged as the largest party, securing approximately 29% of the vote and 208 seats in the Bundestag. The far-right party, the Alternative for Germany, known as the AfD, achieved its strongest post-war result, obtaining 21% of the vote and 152 seats. This marks the first time since World War II that a party other than the CDU or the Social Democratic Party has come in second place. The SPD under Chancellor Olaf Scholz experienced a significant decline, receiving over 16% of the vote, their worst performance since World War II. Voter turnout was notably high at nearly 83%, the highest since German reunification. Following the election, Merz acknowledged that he will need to form a coalition government. While a likely coalition with the SPD is being considered, the SPD has indicated that such a coalition would be challenging without Chancellor Scholz. The rise of the AfD has been a focal point of the election, reflecting deepening divisions within German society, particularly around issues related to immigration. Overall, the election has resulted in a more fragmented Bundestag, with the CDU leading but lacking an absolute majority. The coming weeks will be crucial as parties engage in coalition talks to form a stable government. All right, Martha, you are freshly back from Germany. This is your show. We'll break this down for us. What do these numbers mean?
So look, the CSU, CDU, did well. Like at least they got 29%. This was not really an unexpected outcome for them. I think they clearly wanted to go beyond the 30% mark, but I think they went into this knowing they would have to form a coalition government. What's most likely to happen, really the only viable option is to go into a coalition with the SPD, which has happened in the past. What's concerning, and I think what's really concerning for the CDU as the Conservative Party of Germany, is the rise of the AfD. It is, quite shocking. They actually doubled their support since 2021. And, the AfD plus Die Linke, the left party, will have the ability to make it extremely difficult to take on measures to bolster German defense in light of the signals coming from Washington. The SPD is going to change party chairman, so it will no longer be Scholz. There's talk about Lars Klingbeil, who is a moderate SPD member. But the Die Linke can also peel off some votes for important measures in the Bundestag from the left wing of the SPD. So look, the thing is, this is going to be complicated. It will be very difficult, very challenging for Merz to move forward with his plans to increase German defense. For us to leave them wondering about the U.S. commitment at a time when the Bundestag is not actually going to be in a great position to enhance German defense is a challenge. It's problematic. The AfD has, this is a largely, this is a radical party. It is not a traditional conservative party. It is very much pro-Russia, very anti-United States. This is not a great situation, but we can, as Americans, we can at least be thankful that the CDU will be in the lead in the sense that they are, traditionally a very pro-American party.
Well, so Martha, I'm going to turn to Les here, but I want to hit on this one piece that you mentioned here, and that's Merz notably, like right after the election, came out saying that we can't rely on the United States, that we need to be independent from the United States. Um, what does that mean? I mean, if the CDU is such a close and U.S. sort of
Mhm.
centered, partner, Les, what does this mean for the future of U.S.-German relations?
Well, I find it very odd that there's this dichotomy of Germany either totally dependent on the United States or totally independent of the United States. How about if Germany is a partner of the United States and Germany should be shunning Russian energy sources? Germany should be embracing a bigger role for itself in the defense of Europe from predatory countries like Russia. And it should also probably be making more moderate decisions on the immigration question. So I think this is a big opportunity for the Germans to grow up and be a real country in the world that is responsible for outcomes that affect its people, instead of hiding behind the United States and other countries, or acting as if once there's a somewhat critical speech from an American leader, that somehow they have to be totally independent of the United States. I think this little temper tantrum is irritating. Let's grow up. Let's have a real relationship. Germany is a very potent country economically. It is the biggest it's the biggest economy in Europe. It is the driver of what could be a tremendous partnership with the United States. And they really haven't been making good decisions for the last 20 years. So they got to change that.
All right. Martha wanted to chime in here, I think. Martha, Les says Germany needs to put its big boy pants on. What say you?
Look,
it's big lederhosen on.
That's only Bavaria. They don't wear it elsewhere.
I'm so culturally insensitive.
No, look, I think there's definitely recognition, actually, particularly with the CDU and CSU, that they need to be, playing with the big boys at this point. And in fact, the things that have taken place, the decisions made in the past 20 years, Merz and a lot of people in his party were not happy with the way Merkel was governing previously. In fact, they were very big rivals of one another. The other thing I would say, actually, Merz was actually, I mean, that's great. We can tell them not to be Russia focused, but then why are we now getting friendly with Putin? How can we tell them not to work with the Russians in such a way if we ourselves are doing so? That I think is that kind of renders your point null, because
Martha, why do we have to tell them? They have been around. They know what's going on. They're closer to Russia than we are. They can make their own decisions. That's the whole point of being a sovereign nation.
They do make their own decisions. They are making their own decisions. And, the problem is they had leadership who made bad decisions in the past. They want to turn a new leaf. The problem they're facing, though, is they will be having to deal with constituencies that are represented in the Bundestag who actually are anti-American. So that's where we are now, and it is not a good thing for the United States. And again, why, how can we lecture them on Russia now if we're doing the things we're doing in this, in the past few weeks that we've been seeing of making excuses for Putin and basically doing a 180 on our Russia policy within a matter of weeks.
All right. So, Jess, I'm gonna clearly we've got a fault line or two, maybe three here. Jess, back clean up for us. clean up this mess.
I can shred through the middle here because I take a little issue, with Les's points. Yes, Germany should be making its own decisions, but his comment that there's uproar over a couple U.S. comments made recently. And I think it's more than a couple comments coming from the Trump administration. I think they see a new wave of policy making happening. It's not a few comments. They're reading the room really accurately, and I think it's not just Germany. I think it's world leaders across Europe, and I think that's what's obviously this election is incredibly important. Martha explained the dynamics of it, but regardless of whatever coalition government comes into power, the biggest issue they're going to have to deal with is the potential monumental shift in U.S. EU relations and how they're going to deal with that, right? And they can talk about nuclear sharing when it comes to France and the UK. They can talk about upping their commitment to Ukraine, upping their spending, but that is going to be the biggest issue. And we can even look at Merz was talking about taking a harder line on China, right? How the U.S. has been talking to the EU leaders about doing that for years. We don't see ourselves doing that. How do we expect them to do that when we're not supporting them? I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the EU tracks their own foreign policy going forward without us. And I think we're going to come to regret kind of leaving them in the cold right now.
Can I just quickly respond by saying, like, let's end the freak out. Okay, I'm not particularly thrilled with.
I think we've been
hold on, Jones.
On this show for how many episodes that the European leaders need to come up with their own foreign policy, and they need to make their own decisions. They need to stand united, and that's what they're going to do. And they may stay united and not take positions that the U.S. agrees with.
I would say part of the problem is that now the AfD has nearly 21% in the Bundestag. They are an anti-EU party, and that is part of how they were formed. So how is Merz going to form this security coalition with European partners? How can he do it effectively when he has a sizable opposition within the Bundestag who will be trying to undermine these efforts to create this European security organization? It's very challenging, and it's one thing to pass the baton in a relay race with a partner, it's another thing altogether to throw that baton out of the track field and expect them to leave the track field to go catch it and then start running again. Are they going to win that race? No. So, it's, and the other thing is Merz actually did, the CDU has actually been very vocal on the migration policy, and they're going to have to be. Otherwise, I think we're going to see potentially the AfD taking taking an even bigger role in the next Bundestag elections.
All right.
Martha, hold on. I think
Les, the last word here. I will give you the last word. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Morgan.
Sounds like Merz needs to get his act together pretty quick and form this coalition. Mm-hmm. Yep. If he's got a chance for political viability here. So last word, go.
Martha, the problem with your metaphor is the Germans aren't even in the race. If there was if we called on them to send peacekeepers to Ukraine to provide a security guarantee to the Ukrainians, they could do nothing.
Let's see if it happens. Okay, Les, let's see if they're called upon.
This is a wake-up call for the Germans. Let's see how they respond and then judge them accordingly.
Les, let's see if they're called upon to have peacekeepers in Ukraine. I think they do it. And
they have no one to send, Jones. They have no capability whatsoever. The British can send one brigade. The rest of Europe can't even do that. It's pathetic.
But Les, you're making our point for us in the sense that they don't have the capability, so you can't just turn it over to them with no capability.
No, they have to start making good decisions. This is the wake-up call to start making good decisions. Get off Russian energy, start being able to defend yourself, build things up in Europe so that you're not totally reliant on the U.S. for every single thing. That is a partnership. That is not the U.S. abandoning Europe. That is a partnership.
No, Les, I agree with that outcome, but I don't actually think there's a partnership. I think the U.S. thinks they can do that on their own. I think those are good things they need to achieve, but I don't think we're suggesting a partnership to help them do that.
Of course we are. We're all allied together under NATO.
But why would they?
NATO is still around, my friends.
Is it?
Why wouldn't they follow the United States lead on Russia now and return to Russian dependency on Russian sources of energy? If we are prioritizing
excuses, Germany needs to do the right thing.
All right, everyone, shut up. That's a wrap. Thanks so much, Crowley, Claude Jennings, and the NSI staff for their help in producing today's special episode. Join us on Wednesday, February 26th, for another episode of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you smart, fast on the national security and foreign policy debates shaking up America. Fault Lines is now on YouTube. At our channel for a video of today's episode. If you like what you heard or saw, which is highly doubtful at this point, do and subscribe.